Back injuries are preventable. A back injury is not caused by a single incident. Back pain is second to colds in causing lost days from work. Most back injuries occur in people ages 24 to 40. What causes back pain? Poor posture, poor overall physical condition, poor body mechanics. Proper posture guidelines. Maintain the natural curves of your spine in all positions, sitting, standing, or sleeping. Use a lumbar support if you're sitting for a long time. If you sleep on your side, put a pillow between your knees. If you sleep on your back, have a pillow under your knees. Don't slouch. Proper body mechanics include keeping your back as straight as possible, using your leg muscles by kneeling or squatting rather than bending at the waist. If you're unable to squat, use a half kneeling position. Rotate your whole body rather than twisting your back. Lift your feet when you move and keep them 12 to 18 inches apart. Carry objects close to your body core. Know your limitations. When you need help, get it. Move slowly. Have the lead person count aloud to 3 and move together. Jean is demonstrating a proper lifting technique. Notice how she is bending with her knees, keeping her back straight, lifting her head up to support her back. She's got a wide base of support, she's keeping the object close, and she also has her feet positioned at a diagonal to keep her from losing her balance in the forward or backward direction. When she gets ready to move the object, she will use her feet to turn around rather than rotate with her back. These are principles of good body mechanics. Types of transfer lifts. One-person transfer lift. Squat to the student's level if transferring from the floor, or position the wheelchair and lock it. Put one arm around the child's back while supporting the child's head if needed. Place one arm under his or her knees. Keep the child in close proximity to your body. Talk to the student about the transfer prior to moving him or her. Count out loud. 1, 2, 3, lift. Slowly rise, keeping your back as straight as possible, and place the child in the next desired position. We will now demonstrate a one-person lift from the floor to the table. Use a one-person lift only if the child weighs less than 40 pounds or when directed by your physical therapist. When beginning the lift, talk to the student about the transfer prior to moving him or her. Squat down to the child's level. Put one arm under the child's upper back while supporting the head if needed. Your other arm goes under the knees. Keep the child in close proximity to your body. When lifting, count out loud. 1, 2, 3, lift. Slowly rise, keeping your back as straight as possible, moving your feet instead of rotating your body, and place the child in the next position. There are some general rules of transferring. Secure the area. Before moving the student, lock the brakes and stabilize equipment against a firm surface, such as a wall, when appropriate. Have an adequate number of people for a safe and proper transfer, and get help if needed. Position yourself in the wheelchair in close proximity to where you are moving the student. Make sure you practice good body mechanics. Use a gait belt when appropriate. Feed the teeth end in first and hold the belt with the palm facing up. One-person transfer, stand pivot. Position the chair in close proximity to the destination and lock the brakes. Put on the gait belt, remembering to thread the teeth end first. Have the child scoot forward in the chair while saying nose over toes. Assist the child to stand and then pivot to the next position. We are now demonstrating a one-person stand pivot transfer. This is used for someone who is able to bear weight. First, position the chair so it is at an angle toward the direction you're moving, and then lock the brakes. It's important to use a gait belt. Once the gait belt is on, have the student scoot forward in the chair, and when he or she is ready to stand, he or she must lean forward to move his or her center of gravity forward. Notice her wide brace of support with her knees bent. She's keeping her back straight and she's turning around. By giving him the direction, lean your nose over your toes, his center of gravity is moved forward. Two-person transfer, top and bottom. Squat to the student's level if transferring from the floor, or position the wheelchair and lock the brake. Person number 1 positions herself by the child's feet. She places her hands under the child's knees and thighs. Person number 2 positions herself behind the child. She places her arms under the child's armpits and locks her hands around the child's chest, forearms, or gait belt. The lead person will count to 3 and they lift the child in unison. We are demonstrating a 2-person lift, top and bottom, from the changing table to the wheelchair. The student is unable to help, so notice we have someone at his feet and someone at his head, and we position the chair where it should be with the brake on. Gina is bending with her knees. She puts one knee on the table to stabilize her lower back. The person at the head is going to position her hands under the child's armpits and lock her hands around the child's chest. The person at the feet is placing her hands under the child's knees and pelvis. The lead person counts to 3 and they lift the child in unison into the wheelchair. Notice how the lifters keep their backs straight and bend with their knees, keeping their heads up to keep their backs safe. 2-person transfer, side by side. Squat to the child's level if transferring from the floor, or position the wheelchair and lock the brake. Person number 1 positions himself by the child's right side. He places one hand or arm around the child's shoulders or upper body and one hand or arm under the child's knees and thighs. Person number 2 positions himself by the child's left side. He places one hand or arm around the child's shoulders or upper body and one hand or arm under the child's knees and thighs. The lead person counts to 3 and they lift the child in unison. You can also do a 2-person lift with one person on each side of the child. The main thing to remember here is that the student must have some head control. When you do a 2-person side-by-side lift, each person holds the child under his armpit with one arm and with the other arm holding under his or her knee. Again, use correct body mechanics, squatting with your legs and keeping your back straight. The lead person will count to 3 and they will lift the child in unison. Notice how they keep their backs straight and squat with their legs. Now we are showing them transferring the child from the floor back to the wheelchair. He is in a sitting position. The lifters have their knees bent and they are ready to lift on the count of 3. He is safely back in the chair. If a student is too heavy, your physical therapist will recommend that you use a Hoyer lift or some other type of lift. Be sure to listen to your therapist's recommendations. Types of transfers, Hoyer lift. Take advantage of mechanical lifts when children are too heavy or it is unsafe for the staff or student to perform a lift. Be sure you are properly trained by an occupational therapist or a physical therapist on the proper use of each Hoyer lift. Now we're going to show you how to use a Hoyer lift. A Hoyer lift, or any other type of mechanical lift, is used for students who the therapist has deemed should be transferred in this manner due to either their weight or muscle tone. You can see that the legs of the lift can be adjusted with that handle in the back. They open to go under a table, etc., and they get narrower if you should have to move the lift through a door. In the back, there is a bar that the staff can use to push the lift. The battery and the controls are in the back. Here is the sling, which has a horseshoe-shaped cutout so you can place it behind the student's back and put it under him while he's seated in the wheelchair. Amy is showing how to position the sling behind the student. She's pushing it down as far as she can. Oftentimes, 2 people work to place the sling. Notice how Amy has put one side of the sling under both legs and the other side under both legs too, in preparation for hooking the sling to the lift. The sling is in place and the staff is bringing the lift toward the student. You can see where they place the straps around him. You might like to use a piece of yarn to mark which loop works best for each student. At this point, the lift is raised, the student is moved to the desired location, and then lowered safely. Here is the student in the sling. We're going to demonstrate how he can be moved across the room. This student can hang onto the lift and support himself, but students who cannot must have their arms tucked across their chests and inside the straps. Get in shape. Pot bellies add stress to your back. Exercise makes you flexible and strong. Exercising supports proper posture. A healthy lifestyle is good for your back. Stretching and strengthening for a strong back. 1. Hamstring stretch. 2. Back extension. 3. Sit-ups. 4. gluteus stretch, 5, back flexion. If you have any questions, please contact your PT or OT staff via Jean Ubalodi at 402-715-8307.